Okay, continuing on in our example, we need now to be able to create bins, and then we can actually start sorting our stuff and being able to do that. So we have a number of bins. We have a trash bin, when we're looking here. We have paper bin, plastic bin, a trash can, we have a metal bin, and a glass bin. Okay, and then we have our background. So let's go ahead and we're going to start doing that. So the very first thing that we need to do, let's just load, we don't need to see that anymore. Let's load our background. So I'm going to come here. Let's load the background. We'll drag that in. And then let's create a folder, and we'll call them bins. And then in here, we're going to load, because we already know that we're going to do it. We're going to load the different trash bins. Okay, so we have glass, metal, paper, plastic, and let's do that one as a trash can. Even in the example I did this one, but let's do this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to throw those in to the bins. Okay, we know that we're going to have to create these. We're going to do it almost the exact same way as how we created the trash, having it randomized. I want it to randomize what it's creating on the bottom left. So we're going to do some stuff with that. But since we already know that we're going to end up having to throw some images to size some stuff, let's go ahead and do that right at the very start. So we're going to come up here. And so most of that was all for our trash pile. Now this is just for our bins. So we're going to have a glass bin image, a metal bin image, a paper bin image, a plastic bin image, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a trash bin image. Okay, so with all of those, and then we got our background. Let background image. Okay, we know we're going to have to do this as a preload. All right, so glass bin image. This is the same way. Load image, and I'm pulling it from the bins folder, and it's the glass bin .png. All right, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go ahead and do that. For all of those, we are just loading all of these into our variables. All right, get those. Okay, so I have them all loaded. Now we can go and start creating. So we're going to work our way from the create a bin and then work our way up. Ultimately, we want, when we first start a game, to create all of the bins, but we want them randomized on how it's going to create them. So let's go down. We don't need to touch mouse press or mouse release. I'm just going to keep minimizing this stuff as we're going. We'll start here. Function create a bin. Okay. We need to know the type, the position, the image, and the bin width. And we want those to be dynamically done based off of the size of the screen and all that stuff. Okay, so these things we're going to pass in. Now, we're going to create a bin, and every bin is going to end up having a type, the same as our trash, so that we can tell our different pieces from it. Every one is going to have a position, but this time, instead of us setting null, we're going to pass in specifically where that should be based off of where the other bins are created. We're going to build the size, which is going to be composite. We're going to say that the bin width, that's going to be generated from the width of the screen. Bin width. and then we'll give it some value like 180. But this could be also, if you were wanting to try to make it size appropriately to the screen, you could have it have different values. For this game, though, I'm going to just leave it at 180. But just so you would understand, if we have a 400 by 400 canvas, 180 is going to take up almost half. But if we have, a full screen, 180 is going to take up very little bit. So you may want to balance your game by having some different values than that for whatever game you're creating. I'm just walking through this real quick. Okay, image is going to be the image that we pass in. And then we don't have a lot of functions for the trash. We have a display, and we need to be able to collect trash so that we could ultimately reset the trash that we collected. Okay, so let's go ahead and write a display. This display is going to be based off the image, that we're positioning the image from its position vector, position.x, this.position.y, this.size.x, this.size.y. Okay, that's it for our display. So we'll pause. We need to add a collect trash function. Okay, but we want to be able to see what we're creating first. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Return bin, since we're calling that function. Now this create bin should be called by something else. It should be called, kind of like how we created that trash pile, we're going to create the bins. So function create bins, and in this I don't need to have any speed or any of that stuff, but we are going to still have to have kind of like our bin types. Okay, so that means I'm going to come up here to the trash pile and borrow this. This is what I want, and then I can minimize that again. I just want those types so I don't have to retype them. Okay, so these are my types for my bins. I have glass, metal, plastic, paper, and trash. The bin width, which we know, so ultimately we're building to be able to build these out. Bin width is going to be the width of the screen divided by the length. So bin types are, divided by the types dot length. Okay, that's this types right here. So if it makes it more clear, this would be the bin types. So I am basically saying, so if I had, if I wanted to build this and there is another type of recycling, maybe it's called ceramics or something, and that was different, then I had more types. I'm dividing that width by more types. I should have a different set of widths. So 400 divided by 10 would be 40. 400 divided by 4 would be different. So I am building it based off the length of how many items I have. Okay, I'm going to need another one. I need a value that is going to be starting at the left, and I'm increasing by a certain amount so I can find where I need to start placing these. I'm going to call that start X. And all that's really going to do is that's just going to slowly increase as we go. And then I'm going to, for this, I can't necessarily do this as easily with a for loop, but basically I want to loop through 5 times. But each time I want to randomly pull one of these without being able to repeat pulling it. So if I pull the glass, I don't ever want to see glass again while I'm doing this, to make sure that I'm only putting that glass bin type out one time and not more than once. And all of them are going to be accurately represented. Okay, so we'll say while the bin types dot length is greater than 0. Okay, This is a while loop. A while loop is very similar to a for loop, except a while loop can run as many times as it needs. A for loop only runs a very specific number of times. Okay, so this, as long as bin types the length, so as long as there's items inside of this, so as long as types length is greater than 0, that means that there's one of the items in here. That means that I have not pulled one of them. Okay, I'm going to keep doing it. Okay, so now I don't know what the index is of it yet. So I need to basically pull one of the items out. So I need to find an index number that's going to be random. So I'm going to say, we'll call it index, and it's going to be an int that I'm going to randomly pull from the length. So types.length. So what this is going to do is that I have in this, the length of this is, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So my length is going to be up to 5. Now I don't want any partial values. I want to go from 0 to 5. So randomly pull 0 to 5. That will be my index that I'm going to be assigning here. Okay. Now I'm going to use that to call the splice function. So I'm going to say, all right, I got my types. I now have a random index that I'm going to use. I'm going to do that by pulling a type from that types array here, or this list, that I want to remove it permanently. So I'm going to call splice, which means it's going to remove it out at that index number, and I only want to remove one item. Okay, so if it randomly picks 1 right here as my random value, it's going to make sure that it's an int. Okay, 1. So if it picked 1.3 as a value, that's going to become 1. That's my index. So now I'm pulling from this list. I'm going to say, well, whatever is at 1, remove it out. So metal gets removed out by calling this, and then that becomes my type. And then the next time this runs, metal's not in there. My length is actually not 5 anymore. It's 4 because metal doesn't exist. Okay, so this is how I'm kind of preventing it from pulling multiple times. All right, I can use now that type to determine my image. So I'm going to say, hey, if, and we're going to do the same thing that we did for creating the trash. If type is glass, then use the glass as the image. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to copy, oops, not there, from the create trash pile. I want to copy this, and then I'm going to modify. Okay, so in here, I'm just using this to be able to pull the image. Okay, so if type is glass, then the image is going to be that glass bin image, but I don't need to have the random anymore. So I'm basically modifying each one of these. I only loaded one type, so I can take off that random. I added bin in each one. There is no S. Oops. Plastic was messing me up. Plastic. Bin. Image. Okay. Image is glass bin image. Let's make sure that we have them. Yeah, glass bin, metal bin, paper bin, plastic bin, trash bin. That's what I'm doing. Glass bin, plastic bin, metal bin, paper bin, trash bin. Okay, that should be all my images. And then I'm creating So this is my create bins. It's going to create that individual bin. So let bin is going to be that create bin. I need to pass in the type. I'm going to create a vector for the position because I'm specifically telling it. I'm going to use that start x, okay, and I'm going to multiply that by the bin width. So why am I doing that? The very first one that I want that to place it at x is 0, okay, which I'm starting start x at 0. 0 times whatever that width is, so let's say that was 40, it's going to be 0, which would be the far left. But then the second time I do it, that start x should increase by 1 times that bin width. It would move it over. So it shifted the accurate number of times over. So I'm going to have that change as I'm going. But it'd be start x times bin width for my x position. And then I'm going to do height times and we're going to do, I don't know, 4/5 of the height of the screen. So I need to put that inside of parentheses so that order of operations works. 4/5 of the screen. I need to pass in that image that's going to be built from there, and then I'm passing in the bin width, which could be changing, okay? After I do that, then I need to push that image to a bin list, which we have not created yet, and then I need to increase up my start x by 1 each time, okay? And this should work. Okay, we still have to create those the list of bins, and then that's how we're going to actually display our stuff too. Okay, so that means up here we have our bins. So let's do let bins. And then when we get to our stuff here, we're creating that trash. Let's create the bin. So bins is going to be an empty list. And then we can create bins. All right, now we don't actually have them updating yet to display, so we're going to have to do something with that. So let's go to our draw, and we're going to do kind of the same thing. Inside our draw, we want to display the bins. Now, I'm going to do that. It's going to seem a little weird, but since I'm already looking at every piece of trash, the bins ultimately are going to have to test if that trash has collided. And if any one of the pieces of trash has collided to determine if it's a match or not a match. Okay, so I do want to actually display all my trash inside of this for of loop. And the only reason is because I'm saving on code. I'm not displaying it twice, and I'm collecting the trash. So I could technically create another for loop in outside of here to display, but I could draw that trash. So I could do this. I could do for let bin of the bins, and then I could say bin.collect trash, which we have not created yet, and check that piece of trash. So if we have a collision, okay. That is basically for us to be able to display it. And then here, technically, we would have to call. So we could say let bin of bins here. Bin dot display. Okay. So that is only displaying it that one time. And then we're just testing it. Okay. So this, we got to write. So I'm going to comment this piece out right now. We want to see if we're creating trash the trash bins. Looks like there's a problem loading your image, trash bin.png. I switched images, so that says trash can.png. Let's go ahead and just change this. Trash bin. Cannot read properties of undefined. Line 211. This one's saying line 211. one of these is not loading correctly. So usually when this happens, we can find out what image did not load. This is line 72 in draw. So I'm just kind of stepping down to see what it is. Line 72 in draw, chances are it's one of the trash ones. Okay, but we don't know which one. So we got to go through and double check that our pieces are all called correctly. Trash bin.png, plastic bin.png, paper bin, metal bin, glass bin. We can console log and any one of them that does not have a width, so that's the X. We should be able to find what that is. So in the setup, you can't really do it in the preload, but in the setup we could call each one of those. So let's just quickly do this. Glass bin image dot width. Let's see what that is. 327. Okay, so that worked. Metal bin image. There's a size. Paper bin. This is the way that we can kind of step through our code to try to find out where the error is. That gives me one. Glass, metal, paper, plastic. Trash. So that gave it, all of them gave it. Okay, so then if we have those images, each one of those has an image, then we got to go through when we called it to make sure that we were spelling our stuff right. Create bins. Let's run console.log. We'll see what that type is. Make sure that we don't have multiple of them go. Trash, glass, paper, metal, plastic. We can rerun. Okay, it's changing the order. Okay, we'll make sure that we come in here. I don't see it yet. I don't need that image width. That one worked. That one worked. That one worked. That one worked. Okay, that one worked. So we were loading images. Now we come into our create bin and we're loading an image in here. Every single time we're doing this, we should have an image. Okay, so we're calling the type, the position, the image, the bin width. Type, position, we created the size, the image, okay, so let's go to the draw and we'll see if we can suss out why this is not working. Console.log bin.position.x. $73. It doesn't like the position. So maybe we spelled that wrong. 0 times bin width. Okay, one of these values, so it doesn't like our x. So we can do console.log, and we can basically log these pieces. So let's do this. We'll run that. Make sure that we take off our console, off our other stuff. That one. So these are increasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we're calling that trash bin, this is correctly going in. Here's the, there is create. Oh, there's the error right there. It's a spelling mistake. So as we were passing everything in, it was good, but then we didn't say position. We said, spelled it wrong. So now, there you go. Okay. Small thing. Check your spelling. Okay. Those are now doing it. Let's see that they are reorganizing. Yeah. Okay. And then we got to do for our display, we got to, so the create our bins, those are looking good. Let's display the background image. That's looking pretty good. So now we need to have it sort the trash. So let's quickly do that. So we're going to call this collect trash. That's what we had down here. So that's in the bin area. And we have to have that create a trash function. Okay, so inside of here, this would be that collect trash. And to do this, we want it to look at every piece of trash that we hand it, which is why we had it inside of that for of loop. And we're going to check. So we're going to do the library again. The one that we want is a collide rectangle to rectangle, because there's a rectangle naturally drawn around the shape of the trash bins and then around the trash. So we want to do this, but it's going to be a vector. So we need the position and the size of each of those squares. Okay, so we're going to do if collide rect vector, and then it'd be this dot position, this dot size, comma trash dot position, trash dot size. Okay, if that's true, if we have a collision, what do we want to do? Well, that individual trash, there's a couple things that we do. Ultimately, we're going to need to, if we have a collision in here, it could be a good collision or it could be a bad collision. All right, so if it's a bad collision, we need to play incorrect sound. This would be where we would want to do it. Decrease health. If it's a good collision, then we want to increase the trash sorted, so like our score. And we would need to reset all collisions, reset trash. Okay, so that means that that individual trash, we're calling its reset function, which is why we wrote it that way, so that we wouldn't have to worry about it. So this will call that trash, okay? And we want that to happen all the time, and just have it reset. So we shouldn't see it go down farther on the bottom. So let's go ahead and run. Just put some here. Okay. That just kept going, didn't it? Probably because we didn't call it yet. Yep. Okay. Now, let's put some trash there. Let's see it move. See how it disappeared? Okay. Now I'm trying to do it on the edges so we can see it. All right. There is a little bit of an issue here, and it almost disappears and collides too quick. We want it to actually be a little bit different, a little bit lower, which means that the position that we ultimately want to collide with the trash is always going to be a little bit lower than the top of this, which means that we're going to create, instead of just taking this position, we want most of this, but we want to actually shift down the hit box of the trash to be a little bit lower than that trash pile, so we don't see it disappear as easily. So we're going to make a change right here. Instead of us doing this, we're going to create a vector. We're going to pass in the X position. And then we're going to pass in the Y position, position.y, but we're going to add an arbitrary value to it. I'm going to add 20. So now, let's watch this happen. It won't collide as soon. It's going to kind of go into the trash pile before it collects it. It looks a little bit better. So you guys could tweak those values a little bit. And that's why we also drew the bins on top, so the trash kind of goes behind it. Makes it look better. It looks a lot better for me. Okay. So now we can start doing some things. We want to start generating some type of score, which would be that trash sorted, and we want to start implementing the health. Okay. So, basically for this health, which let's just go ahead and create that right now because we basically have this. We need to do the trash sorted. And we need to do the health. Okay. Now, when we start a game, so let's go into, we can minimize this piece right there. I'm going to just save. When we come to our setup, health, now this is going to be a global. Let's say we have that as 100. Trash sorted. We're going to start that at 0. And then because we're starting at that, let's see. When we collect the trash, so if we properly sorted it, that means it drops into the bin correctly. So that's all the way at the bottom. we have some type of good collision. Here is where we could also do it. Also, when we release, we could have it where it's dealing with it. So I would, for the specific bins, that's where we want to kind of collect that trash. Okay, so if we have a good collision, we want to increase that trash sorted. If we have a bad collision, then we want to, decrease health, play, bad sound, whatever. So if this dot type, that means that bin that we're currently on, if that equals the trash type, if that's true, then what do we have? We have correctly sorted, so trash sorted plus plus. Okay. If we did not, we have a bad sort. We've dropped plastic in the trash can or plastic in the metal bin, then we want to subtract our health. So let's say I'm subtracting my health by 10. Okay, this would also be where I'm playing that incorrect sound. So this is a bad collision, incorrect sound, decrease health. That's all going in here. That's what we're doing. Okay. So that should be good. So let's go to display some type of health bar. That would be helpful. Okay, so let's minimize all this stuff. All right, so a health bar, we're building it off of that health that we have, that 100. And then we can use that to modify things. So we want to do some type of health bar. So I'll call it function display health bar. And ultimately what we want to do is we will display some type of rectangle. And have something in here that's maybe saying like, what we sorted. But I want to do it by color. So I want to do like if we have, like low health, that we have a certain color, all the way up to we have full health. So like green, yellow, red to let me know that we're, starting to lose or doing well. Green, yellow, red, health bar. Okay, and I want it to change the size as we go. So let's start building that. So if our health is, let's say, greater than 70, then we have good health. We're going to fill our rectangle with some type of green, but I do want it to be a little bit transparent so I'm seeing behind it, because I can still have items that show up behind it. So I'm going to make it half transparent. Okay, whenever you use RGB colors and you put a fourth one that is a transparency or the alpha channel, which is what we're going to be using. Okay, so if our health is not greater than 70, then we want our health to be greater than 40 and let's say less than or equal to 70. And we'll fill it with some type of yellow. So 221. I pulled this off of the color picker. So this isn't like I'm pulling this off from memory. Okay. If we are less than that, then we basically want to have red. So we're going to say fill 255, 00, 125. All right. So there is my health bar. Now let's fill it out with a rectangle. So I'm going to say the width of the screen, and I am going to take the full length of my health. I'm going to double that so that'll be the health bar will be like 200 pixels long. So I am going to give it a little bit of buffer so it's not hitting the edge. So I'm going to minus it by like 230. I want it to be 30 from the right edge and 30 from the top edge of my screen, and then the width of it is going to be from health times 2. So if I'm at full health, it's going to be 200 long. And as I start losing health, it's going to shrink in width. And I only want it 30 pixels tall. Okay, so that is my rectangle. Now I want to fill some text that is going to give me, if like what my how many items I've sorted. So let's say 24, and then I'm just going to write something. I'll use like a string literal. So we'll say sorted, $, squiggle bracket, trash sorted, and I want that at width minus 180. I'm just playing around with values. These are the values that I had to do this. So now that's my health bar. I need to be able to display this. And I'm ultimately going to just display this in my draw. Okay, so I want this on top of everything. So here, display health bar. Let's see if it's working. There's my health bar. There's my sorted. That looks all right. Let's incorrectly sort. Yeah, see, it's going down. Okay, now there is some problems on here. We don't see them yet, but watch when we get past, there's 0. That's negative. Okay. I want the game basically to stop at the negative. So in my draw, I don't want to be able to see, I got to determine what I want on my game. Basically, I don't want to be able to continue sorting anything if I don't have good health. So the trash pile and the bins, I don't want them to do anything if my health is less than 0. So I'm just going to say health greater than 0. And then inside of here, this is all of this stuff. Okay. I can still display my health bar, but this will now, so let's 0 it out. Hey, everything disappeared. Okay, so that's kind of what we want to see. That gets us most of the way. So now we do want to start thinking about building a play button that we can choose to play and to pause the game, because the only way that we could really restart is by clicking the play button. So we're going to have to make changes to that. And we need to have some type of instructions on there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's create a playing. So here, playing. That's going to be my variable. And then I'm going to want to set that when we start playing the game. So if I leave it as true, which ultimately I'm going to want to have it start as false so that we can read it. So if I left it as true, we just keep playing the game. But I can set it as false if I wanted to pause the game. So let's put it as false. And then with that there in my draw, this is all happening when I'm playing the game. But ultimately, if I'm paused, I don't want to be checking that either. So I'm going to say if we are playing the game, then, so everything's going to be in here. Health, the bins, I want that inside of playing. So now it's not going to show anything. I'm not going to see the trash moving, okay, even though I do have health. Okay, so what I want to do when I'm looking at my game is inside of the draw, as long as I'm playing, just make sure I'm checking my notes. As long as I'm playing, I'm going to be showing this. Okay, when I'm not playing, so after this, if I'm not playing, so if that's false, like I paused it or something, I want to display the instructions, like, play the game, or the rules. So that could be the instructions that I have at the very start, because I'd started out as false, and then when I'm pausing the game, it's also going to do that. So let's display some text. I'm going to make it big. My text is going to be pretty simple. Text. Sort the trash by type by selecting and dragging the trash above the correct bin. Okay. And then I want it, roughly in the middle. Width divided by 2. Height divided by 2. Let's go to 500 is how much I want to wrap, and the X and then the Y. Let's see that. Now if we resize this, I'm okay with that. That's running off, so maybe I'm not okay with that. Let's make it so that we're only so far from the left edge. So if we put, say, 200, that shifts me over. Now if I make this smaller, I will get to a point where I'm almost running off, but that's also a really small screen for me to play. So that looks okay. So that should be fine. All right, so now I'm displaying it, but as soon as I go to true, then I'm going to be playing my game. Which means let's start setting up our button, okay? Which I'm going to do that for the next video. So we basically have the game, we have it where it's sorting, it's going up, we can die, we need to add sound, we need to make it so that the game will allow us to play and hear those sounds, okay? So this is a good stopping point for this video. The next one is going to be playing the music and modifying so that we can have the speed up and those fun things. Okay, good luck.